R. Tyson, Chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. I would like to thank you for joining us for this discussion on the Local Food Action Plan. I want to recognize Council President Harden, who has joined us today. Before we begin, please be aware that this hearing is being recorded for rebroadcast on CTV, the Columbus Government Television Channel 3. The rebroadcast schedule is available at www.columbus.gov. I would also like to acknowledge um, John O'Grady, who is President John O'Grady, who co-sponsored the Franklin County Local Food Action Plan. John and I began working on the food plan over 5 years ago as a joint effort between the city and the county. You will hear today from Commissioner Kevin Boyd shortly, who is speaking on behalf of the county commissioners. I also want to thank the Franklin County Local Food Council for hosting this hearing. You will hear from Ariel Miller, Chair of the Food Council, momentarily. One of the goals of the food plan is encouraging collaboration and coordination amongst existing entities in the food system. And working with Franklin County Local Food Council is essential to making this happen. As I mentioned, the food plan is a partnership with the county. Jim Schumer, Director of the Franklin County Economic Development, will be providing remarks. The county has been instrumental in using economic development tools to strengthen our local food system. I also want to acknowledge our Health Commissioner, Dr. Mashika Roberts, and Edward Johnson, Columbus Public Health Policy Director, who will be speaking on behalf of Dr. Roberts this afternoon. I also would be remiss if I don't recognize Jaleesa Dawkins and Cheryl Graffanino and Brian Esterbrook. These are the members of the food team who are making the work we are doing on the food plan possible. In addition, thanks to our local food board chair, Tony Logan, for his leadership in implementing the food plan. You will hear from Tony and Michelle Moskowitz Brown, who was also on the food board. And I also want to recognize from Amy McCormick, who I see has joined us today, who is the vice board chair for the local food plan. Further, today's presenters will provide updates on mobile markets, civic agriculture, food system, economic development, food waste reduction efforts, equity in the food system, and healthy food access. We will also have presentations from the Mid-Ohio Market at Columbus State Community College, Lisa Phillips and Andrew Crowley, Columbus Franklin County and Scott's Miracle-Gro Urban Gardening Grant, Sue Locke and Teresa Woodward and Shelley Casto, the local matters veggie van, Tori Strickland, and then also SWACO Food Waste Action Plan update from Lucy Schroeder and Jenny McAdams. The background on in terms of the food plan, I'm excited to be here today to be able to commemorate the Local Food Action 2019. When we began working on the food plan, we did so with the understanding that food is important to the physical and economic health of our community and its residents. In order to address food-related issues, it was clear that we needed a comprehensive plan that included everyone who contributes to the food system, from producers, processors, to distributors and consumers. The plan also includes 4 goals and 27 recommendations and 27 action steps. And those include enhancing the coordination and communication amongst existing food resources and agencies, improving access and education about healthy food, affordable food, and local food, increasing the role of food in economic development, and preventing food-related waste. At this point in the annual report hearings, I usually take a moment to highlight a few of the accomplishments of the previous year. However, this year, I want to do something a little different. I trust that today's presenters will offer detailed remarks on last year's undertakings. I'd like to take a moment, though, to discuss race and equity. On June 1st, I sponsored a resolution to establish racism as a public health issue. And I also want to share that certainly the county has passed that same resolution. And probably, I'm sure Commissioner Boyce will share some information about that. But Black and Brown people are greatly impacted by inequities in many of the key social determinants of health, including but not limited to crime, housing, education, transportation, employment, and food access. When I started this work back in 2014, I was compelled to do so understanding that many of our residents, especially in our urban areas where many Black residents live, are in food deserts. In 2010, the United States Department of Agriculture described 275,641 Franklin County residents as having low access to grocery stores, with 72,902 of those identified as low income. In 2011, on average, 24% of Franklin County residents had to travel 2.5 miles further to reach a full service grocery store than they did to reach a fast food restaurant. The rate was high as almost 40% in some neighborhoods. So one of our primary goals is to increase access to healthy food, local food, and affordable food. And we cannot have an honest dialogue about food access without discussing those who are disproportionately impacted and have limited access to healthy, affordable food. And that is why I am pleased that we understood the importance of equity and cultural competency from the outset of this report. The following statement was included in the food plan. Franklin County and the city of Columbus are home to more than 1 million people, but not everyone has the same opportunities to be healthy. We see differences in health based on race, ethnicity, sex, neighborhood, income, education, sexual orientation, and other factors. Health inequities are differences in health status and death rates across population groups that are systemic, avoidable, unfair, and unjust. These differences are sustained over time and are beyond the control of individuals. To ensure all residents have fair and equitable access to affordable, healthy, and local food, each of the plan's goals have been developed with a commitment to cultural competency, race, age, ethnicity, language, nationality, religious diversity, literacy levels, and residence, and they must be considered throughout the implementation. To ensure equity and cultural competency of the local food action plan's implementation, staff training with key community agencies and organizations and groups will be undertaken annually. And so we have lived up to this statement by funding the Linden Farmers Market, funding the books for Columbus City Schools Farm to School, diverse, read aloud, and culturally competent materials, establishing the new urban gardening grant process. The Franklin County Economic Development and Planning facilitated $200,000 in tax incremental financing in a deal to help La Plaza Tapatia, everybody know where you owned, local and ethnic grocery store to build a new store. And the Franklin County Food Business Portal was one of the 5 pilot projects supported by the Food Systems Finance Advisory Council, led by the Council of Development and Finance Agencies. These are only a few projects that we continue to implement to support initiatives that promote environmental and racial equity. And we are currently planning on the next project that we'll be sponsoring to support minority businesses while increasing access to healthy food for Black and Brown people. So thank you for joining us, and I hope you will enjoy today's presentations. With that, I will turn it over to Commissioner Boyce. Good evening, Commissioner.
Thank you, Councilmember Tyson. And I'm not sure there's much more that I can add than in detail and depth of the work that you all have been doing that you just laid out. I'm here on behalf of John O'Grady. Unfortunately, he had another event, but I can say this for John O'Grady, that this is his passion, and this is an area that we understand and know is a critical part of the quality of life for residents in Central Ohio. With that being said, I want to thank all of you for joining the local food board action plan and the rollout, the annual report rollout. In 2014, Franklin County and the city of Columbus joined forces because of our shared commitment to our residents' access to healthy, affordable food, to the improvement of our of our community health and to strengthening of our local economy, and most importantly, to the betterment of our environment. The implementation of the local food action plan has resulted in a stronger, more sustainable local food system for the city of Columbus and Franklin County, precisely because of the partnerships that we've been able to create and, more importantly, sustain. The local food action plan guides the community-wide development of new programs and policies that benefit our residents and expand our community or economic development. Tonight, you'll hear about all of those programs that were implemented, and more importantly, how they're strengthening our local food systems, creating more jobs, and expanding food access in under-resourced neighborhoods that prevents our wasted food from entering our landfills. This year, the local food action plan highlighted their efforts in equity, recognizing the long history of systemic inequities that continue to plague the community today is essential when looking to move forward and to rectify our community's past. Franklin County solidified its commitment by addressing all types of inequality, including food access through our Rise Together blueprint, which Councilmember Tyson referenced, which reiterates our steadfast commitment to reduce and eliminate racial disparities in our community through the pillars of jobs, housing, health, and youth. Franklin County also created a $200,000 tax increment financing deal for a minority-owned local ethnic grocery store to cover, as Councilmember Tyson mentioned, to cover unexpected cost of repairing stormwater infrastructure. Without this deal, La Plaza Tapatia would not have been able to build the new grocery store that benefits many residents, not just on the west side, but for Central Ohio. Using the food system to rectify inequalities in our community is the most basic and the most effective tool we can provide our residents. And the local food action plan is essential in recognizing where the needs lie and, most importantly, how we can help. Sorry, my phone dropped. So I'm looking forward to seeing the growth that happens for 2020, and I'm looking forward to this continued partnership. And I want to just once again thank all of our partners who have worked with us to provide what is a valuable component of making Central Ohio the greatest place in America to live, work, and raise a family. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you, Commissioner Boyce, and I certainly do appreciate the words that you've given to all the individuals that are here today, all of our partners, and just appreciate the work of certainly of President O'Grady and his partnership. So thank you so much. And so, without further ado, I don't know if Council President Hardin would like to make any comments before I ask Edward Johnson to begin.
Madam Chair, I would just like to congratulate you and thank you for your leadership, as well as the county, Commissioner Boyce and President O'Grady, and all those folks that make up the Food Action Plan Committee for the work that they're doing. Just thank you so much. We are feeding and saving lives, and your lens that you've added, really that has been a part of this from the beginning, that equity lens, that racial lens has been key to your work since you started. So just very grateful for your leadership.
Thank you. All right. Well, we'll now hear from our Edward Johnson, the Director of Public Health Policy for Columbus Public Health. Director.
Thank you, Chair Tyson. First and foremost, on behalf of Dr. Mashika Roberts, I did want to pass along her greetings. I'm sure, as many of you know, for your local health department, these have been, let's just say, interesting times. We have been in our emergency response system for the past 160 days. And so Dr. Roberts is taking some much deserved and earned time off to rest and recharge. And so she asked me to be here to talk about the work of the Center for Public Health Innovation, under which the local food plan is falling. I have the opportunity to work with great colleagues like Jaleesa Dawkins, Cheryl Graffinina, and Sue Ellen Bennett to talk about racism as a public health issue. Chair Tyson mentioned that City Council had passed the resolution for the City of Columbus on May 1st, and this was a charge that Mayor Ginther had given to us on February 13th during his State of the City address. And so we wanted to be very deliberate and very intentional about what that means and what we were tackling. And so at its core, we wanted to make sure that folks understood that our goal is to increase life expectancy raise quality of life by decreasing health inequities. And Councilmember Tyson, Chair Tyson, definitely wanted to sit down and speak with the health commissioner and myself to understand what that meant and to understand how the local food plan would basically come on her page. She's been doing this work for quite some time, and she wanted us to ensure that we were accounting for the local food plan, supporting it, and ensuring that it was entirely part of the narrative. And so for us, we are able within this crisis to look at some of the acute ways in which health racism is playing out. And so we know that locally, relative to COVID-19, that our Black and brown communities are carrying either 2 times or 4 times the burden of disease locally. But then we look at kind of those chronic racism issues that Councilmember Tyson has been championing through the local food plan when we talk about hospitalizations and complications that are arising. And it is due to things like obesity, poor nutrition, smoking, all of these issues that this group has been talking about for so long. And so that's part of the work that we hope to accomplish at the Center for Public Health Innovation, is reducing those health inequities, particularly in food, dieting, and nutrition, to increase the quality of life of our community. And we're really excited to join Chair Tyson, the members of council, and President O'Grady to hopefully move this ball far forward as we have this renewed attention within our community on racism as a public health issue. So thank you for that opportunity, Chair Tyson.
Thank you so much, Ed, for being here today and championing this work. I now want to introduce Director Jim Schumer from the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning. Good evening, Director.
Hey, good evening to everybody. It's great to see everyone, even if it has to be remotely. There are just so many great individuals on this call, and the work that's been done has been really tremendous. I have been around for a little while, and I think there's this concept that we've talked about for a long time about having a blended government, the idea that government, either at the city or at the county level, supports each other in a lot of the initiatives that we have. And there's no better example of that than the food plan, in my opinion. It's just been a really terrific thing. And for Councilmember Tyson, Chair Tyson, I just want to thank you, because you've done work here locally, but you've also gone globally with her work with our sister city in Genoa, the pesto competition. Some of the things that you've brought to that whole effort has just been terrific. And we have benefited from bringing back information from Italy and from Genoa. And it's been something that I'm really pleased and proud that you have led. So I just wanted to note that as we talk about things today. Franklin County is really proud to be involved in really what I consider to be the front lines of the implementation of the local food plan. And it ensures that strong local food system. I'm not going to be able to add anything more to the comments that have already actually been made about the importance of the food system, both to our economy and our environment, and all the people that have been engaged in trying to make this effort happen. In 2019, our office led the Economic Development and Planning Office of the county developed an economic development strategic plan for Franklin County, and prioritized in that strategic plan was this concept of food business and the implementation of economic development actions that led to and supported the local food action plan. Economic development and local foods have traditionally been joined at the hip, and have been something that I think has been just sort of generally understood. But in the last few years, we've really come to understand how critically important they are in terms of being linked. We talk about small business, the person that has a small food stand, maybe growing vegetables, and they sell that in a local market somewhere, all the way up to bigger companies, Marzetti's, for example, in this community, and processed food, added value foods that we have. Again, all coming back to job creation, economic development in our community, and highlighted really in the work that has been done here over the last few years. We're really pleased, obviously, about La Tapatia, La Plaza La Tapatia. If you get a chance, this is out on Georgesville. It is on the west side of the Westland Mall area. It's under construction. And I always like to remind people of what was there. And what was there was a dilapidated, rundown, nasty apartment complex that the West Side is happier and better off for having disappeared to allow the opportunity for a new grocery store to be located in this area and provide the food that the neighborhood needs and wants on the west side. So it has been a really important part of that. Commissioner Boyce mentioned the tax increment financing deal that was done on that. It's that innovation, I think, that's really important. So, and boy, you absolutely cannot have an event like this without understanding the link back to public health and affordable housing. We're engaged in both of those areas this year, but traditionally, I will say in the past, maybe not in the economic development arena, was the importance of public health understood. I think recently we have been engaged in trying to be in work with impact to look at folks that are being evicted from their homes. Why are we doing that? Because it's an economic development issue, people. And the same thing goes with food. It's an economic development issue. Our community is only going to be stronger if we really focus on a holistic, integrated approach to those issues that we need to address. And finally, I'll close with this event that I like what Commissioner Tyson was talking about. A lot of stuff done in the past, right? That's fantastic. But going forward, I think one of the big ads this year has really been the food portal. And it's the food business portal. It's a free online resource that connects food entrepreneurs in Franklin County with residents and services that hopefully successfully plan and launch businesses here. And we're really grateful, obviously, with our partners at the City of Columbus for the leadership that they've provided with the food board, specifically to help get this particular project across the finish line when probably more than any other time we need to have it in place so that folks can easily identify how they can grow their business and get into business during these times that we are currently faced. So with that, I will say great thanks to Brian Estabrook, who is on our team, as well as Matt Brown. With that, Councilwoman Tyson, I'll turn it back to you to introduce, hopefully, one of my great friends that is been making a great difference all these years, and that's Tony Logan. I hope he's next on the agenda because I want to set him up. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for all your kind words. And yes, and just really appreciate the partnership. And thank you for certainly sharing, especially this business portal. It is instrumental for helping us to plan and launch businesses, food businesses. And so I now have the honor and a privilege to introduce Tony Logan, who is our local food board chair, and he has been on the food board and ever since its inception, and just appreciate his leadership. So Tony, the floor is yours. I think you're on mute, Tony. I think you're still muted.
Is that helping? Okay.
That's better. Yes.
Hi, everybody. I'm Tony Logan, and thank you so much, Councilmember Tyson. And I'll try to tee up my slides here and do a little discussion about what we're doing with the Columbus and Franklin County Local Food Board. And I literally have a countdown on my iPad to start the broadcast. So here we are. Okay. So at any rate, the Columbus Franklin County Local Food Board is a group, which, as you can see, we represent a broad swath of Central Ohio civic leaders in food, farming, but also food security, healthcare, education, restaurateurs, grocers, and of course, SWACO, who we'll be hearing from later. Our principal mission with the food board is to to bring the recommendations of the 2016 Local Food Action Plan and bring those recommendations into life in Columbus and Franklin County, and not have a report, sitting on a shelf somewhere. The role of the plan, as you can see, is to inform policy and investment, both at the city and the county level, to inspire food-related program development, to foster community collaborations, a few of which we're going to be hearing about after my remarks, to guide funding strategies, as Jim Schimmer just described. A really exciting development out on the West End with the Tapatia. And also to shape development patterns to perhaps address this stubborn problem of food deserts throughout Central Ohio, and bring all of these economic tools to bear to abolish those food deserts. We have as our vision a fair and sustainable food system that benefits our economy, our environment, and all people. And I'm not going to repeat the actual wording of the plan, because Councilmember Tyson quoted some of the really forward-leaning portions of the program earlier. I just want to remind folks that that action plan was formulated in 2016, before the exciting new changes that have been brought about by the recent sort of wokeness of all of our civil institutions, and so we had it right from the beginning. It's important that we have food that is readily available and healthy and available for folks, but it should also be culturally appropriate to the populations that we serve. In terms of our goals, coordination and communication, and this really has been facilitated very helpfully by the food team that we have at the county and city level. Cheryl Graffinino, Jaleesa Dawkins, and Brian Estabrook, who are all on the call, and so I'm happy to give them a shout out. We wouldn't be making the progress we're having without their help, and it shows a strong commitment from the Board of Commissioners and the council that they have, guided resources to make these goals become real. We're going to hear later about access and education, K through 12, and also our institutions of higher learning, economic development from farm to fork, as they say, and food waste prevention and reduction, which Lucy at SWACO is going to have a bit of a talk on that. The plan, here's a Venn diagram, we like to call it, of that shows the interactions between the Columbus and Franklin County Local Food Board and the Local Food Council. And you don't need to memorize any of this, and it's but it does helpfully show how we bring these resources together, because it's important to remember that we are only one of a handful of regions in the country that have merged both the county and city local food functions to gain a unique synergy in the food space. We should be proud of that. Our commitment is to ensure that all residents have fair and equitable access to healthy food, affordable food, and local food. And the food board is pleased with the work we've done so far, but we know we can always do better, and our efforts to ensure that a just food system throughout the community really will never be over. But we're at least getting a good start, particularly with the help of our food team. And here's the contact information for Cheryl, Jaleesa, and Brian. You can call them at any time, 24/7. I'm just kidding on that, Cheryl and Jaleesa and Brian. But they are so helpful to us, and really bring the wishes of the council and the commission, bring those out into the communities in the shape of the efforts to sustain smaller agricultural businesses and farming. And with that, I'm going to see if Ariel is ready, and if so, Ariel, I'm going to turn it over to you for a little discussion from the council.
Thank you, Tony. Let me share my screen here. Okay. Well, thank you. The Food Council is really delighted to help host the Local Food Action Planning Report hearing again this year. Like Tony said, my name is Ariel Miller. I chair the Franklin County Local Food Council. And for those of you who aren't familiar with us, I just wanted to share a little bit about who we are and how you can get involved with us and stay involved with implementation of the Local Food Action Plan. So we are a grassroots organization with a mission to expand, strengthen, and maintain a resilient local food system here in Franklin County. And our membership was closely involved in the creation of the plan back in 2014 to 2016. So we've continued that partnership by now providing a pathway for residents and community members to stay involved in the plan's implementation. As everyone has before me has already noted, I think it's clear now more than ever how food justice is really bound up in issues of racial and social justice. So now more than ever, the Food Council is continuing to try and engage communities throughout the county as the plan's implementation moves forward. And that's sort of an ongoing process. We've made efforts to share about what actions are being implemented currently. In the past, we've also promoted some opportunities for people to get involved with project teams and tried to create opportunities for communicating some of the feedback and concerns from the community to both the local food team and the local food board. So it sort of dovetails into the rest of our work. One of the main things that we focus on really is helping build connections throughout the food system. We're the only group that regularly convenes people from across the food system in Franklin County and throughout the county as a whole. So each month we provide a space that's open to the public, and we use it really for education, information sharing. We have presentations, discussions, networking, really just try to weave together that network of people who are either working sort of professionally or volunteer capacity in the food system, or just people who, through the nature of all of us being leaders themselves, have an interest in the food system. We engage in local food policy, I think mostly through the Local Food Action Plan, but we also try to stay connected to state and national policies that affect the food system, since those in an ever-changing political landscape affect us at the local level quite a bit. And we also work on promoting just events, programs, resources that all of the different organizations throughout the community provide. So those are shared at our meetings and our listserv and through social media. So I wanted to provide a couple options for staying both, I think, up to date with the Local Food Action Plan implementation, but hopefully also opportunity for anyone on the call to get involved with the Food Council. Sometimes that's one and the same, though the Food Council does some work that isn't strictly related to the Local Food Action Plan. If you take a moment, you can sign up pretty easily for our listserv. The link is here on the screen. You can also find a group on Facebook. If you want to reach out directly, you can contact us through our email account, or you can check out some information on the website. We have a listening session series that's coming up later this fall that's focused on wages in the food system. So we'll be exploring that issue both, I think, through the context that we've seen with the pandemic of how critical it is to understand the role of food system workers as essential workers, but also noting how the food system disproportionately affects women and people of color, and that has negative repercussions for wages. So that is a series that we'll be hosting coming up here towards the end of the year. And those are open to the public as well as our monthly meetings, which are virtual, of course, right now. But you are welcome to get involved in any capacity at any point with the Food Council. We hope that it's a way for you to stay connected to the Local Food Action Plan, but also just a way to engage with the local food system as a whole in times of crisis and not. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us, and we hope to hear from you soon. I think I'll stop sharing here and pass it off to the next person. Thank you.
Hi. Thank you so much, Ariel. I'm really proud to introduce our next presenter, and that's Michelle Moskowitz Brown. She's a member of the Columbus and Franklin County Local Food Board, but really also a pioneer in the local food space. We're so proud to have her associated with the board and with the whole effort to to build a strong local food economy in Central Ohio. Michelle?
Thank you so much, Tony. I don't have any slides, so I hope you all can hear me and maybe you can see me. I see Tony still on my screen. Okay.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Tyson, Commissioner Boyce, fellow board members, the food team, and the Franklin County Local Food Council, as well as all the attendees here today and participants. It's great to be with you. I'm going to share a brief overview of our current food conditions, including how the pandemic has affected consumers, residents, farmers, restaurants, the emergency food system, a quick look at our local response to COVID-19 in the food system, and the beginnings of a statewide food policy agenda in about 5 minutes. So as we talk about COVID-19 in the food system, as it has been already mentioned on this call, this hearing, it's not complete without connecting the issues and understanding how they are linked to systemic racism. And we know that the connection between racism, diet-related disease, and food insecurity has been there all along, but we're really seeing how COVID-19 has exacerbated these issues. In particular, we know that African Americans are approximately 3 times more likely to die from coronavirus, and that this is closely linked to comorbidities like heart disease and diabetes. And so with that, we know that those issues are really driven by poverty, and that racial justice, as all the speakers so far have said, is a major concern in our community. So I'm grateful to be doing this work with all of you. And in 2016, as had also been shared, when the city and county created the food plan with leadership support from Local Matters, we did establish that vision of a sustainable food system that benefits our economy, our environment, and all people. And many of us have been working towards this end for years, but unfortunately, COVID-19 is further setting us back. We're seeing people who are struggling to make ends meet. That includes farmers and consumers. We have a shortage of processors. We have limited nutrition education and rampant diet-related disease. We have direct-to-consumer sales with little capacity to expand, small businesses and restaurants closing every day, fewer volunteers, and food aggregation and distribution that do not pay farmers what their food is worth. In food insecurity, we're seeing an increase in racial disparity, and the populations, the rates by population differ as follows. For Black families, in 2018, the rate was 25%. It's 39% today. Latino families have seen the biggest increase from 17% in 2018 to 37% today. And white families' food insecurity has almost doubled from 11 to 22% today. In the restaurant space, fine dining had been on a major uptick before the pandemic hit. And now overall, at least 1 in 10 restaurants have shuttered their doors for good. In March, many of you remember Cameron Mitchell temporarily closed 20 restaurants, furloughing 4,500 employees. And in that same time period, 60% of the 701,000 jobs that were non-farm sector jobs that were lost were from restaurants and bars alone. And unfortunately, this was before we reached historic unemployment numbers. It's not a pretty picture, but I know that we're all here because we're working for change. So I wanted to share, even though the conditions are tough, that there are a lot of folks who've been rising to the challenges. Mid-Ohio Food Collective has served almost 23,000 new families across their 20-county footprint, which is a 55% increase over the same time period in 2019. And Lutheran Social Services, which is the largest pantry provider of Mid-Ohio product across 12 counties, is reporting also major increases in visits since March, but a more recent drop-off, which we are theorizing is in part due to temporary support from the CARES Act, the pandemic EBT cards, unemployment benefits. Thankfully, the Lutheran Social Services clients are also reporting satisfaction as they've been able to maintain their food choices through online ordering and pickup. We've seen significant support come from responsive programs in this time period, such as We Are In This Together, which provided 20,000 meals to support restaurants who lost business and to connect their meals to families in need. The World Central Kitchen and the Clinton Foundation came to support our area with collaborations in both Whitehall and in Linden. Food Rescue US in Columbus has continued to support and transport tons of food to nonprofits in need. The food soldier Rochelle Pate works tirelessly as a volunteer to connect thousands of people to food. Columbus City Schools and Columbus Recreation and Parks Department stepped up to connect children and their children of all ages to meals that they missed at school. Local Matters provided support through our veggie van, garden, and educational work. We've covered gaps in transportation and meals for Bhutanese Nepalis, for seniors, for people with disabilities, and for homeless youth. We've seen residents preparing staff lunches and helping their neighbors. This is us at our best, and I know that you could probably help me add at least 10 additional food supports, maybe 100 to this list. So I thank you all for being a part of these essential services to go above and beyond in this great time of need in our community. And then just briefly on the state level, recently I chair the Ohio Food Policy Network in addition to being executive director at Local Matters, and I joined a collaboration with OFA, the Ohio Farmers Market Network, and Produce Perks to create a policy paper titled Opportunities in a Time of Crisis, which outlines 8 recommendations at the state and federal level to build infrastructure for farmers, capacity at farmers markets, technology to increase food benefits for low-income consumers, and nutrition education. There's much more work needed, and in the months ahead, it's my hope that we can build a statewide Ohio food policy agenda with participation from counties across the state that could increase and include additional priorities such as access for land for people of color, living wages for food and farm workers, support for food business development, and more. We'll also have to consider how we address the gap between a desire to grow sustainable food and an economy that makes people choose between their food and their other basic needs. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share this snapshot with you today, and I'm very thankful to you for being a part of a community that's going to continue to do the work necessary to achieve an equitable food system. Thank you so much, and back to you, Tony.
All right. Thank you, Michelle. We'd like now to spotlight a number of the highlights of our annual report, work that's been done in 2019. And here to discuss some of the great work being done at Columbus State Community College is Lisa Phillips and Andrew Crowley. Crowley, would you like to go ahead? And you have the screen.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me here today. I'm excited to be a part of this conversation. I'm Dr. Lisa Phillips, and I'm the Student Financial Stability Administrator at Columbus State Community College, and have had the pleasure of working with the Mid-Ohio market at Columbus State since it opened in October. Andrew Crowley is a student at the college and also an assistant who's worked at the market since October also. Unfortunately, Andrew's not able to join us today. He is off navigating college life and wasn't able to be a part of this conversation today, but I do have some comments that he shared. The Columbus State and the Mid-Ohio Food Collective launched the Mid-Ohio Market at Columbus State in October of 2019 with the goal of combating hunger and food insecurity for our students in the surrounding community. The creation of our market in a high-need neighborhood provides basic needs by offering reliable access to nutritious food through open hours without visit limitations. Our customers are able to shop our market for fresh fruit and vegetables anytime that we're open, on any day that we're open. Prior to the arrival of COVID-19, our customers personally shop from a variety of fresh food and non-perishable items. But with COVID, we've had to go to curbside service, where we still have been able to provide a lot of fresh fruit and vegetables to the members of our community. We know that we are seeing customers often, and we see improved outcomes as we're helping our students and our community members to meet their basic needs. We understand that food is as health and value the critical role nutrition plays in the overall well-being and ability to succeed of our students and community members. The role to educate people cannot be fulfilled without fresh and healthy food. And having that in the market has been a great opportunity for us, or having the market on campus has been a great opportunity for us. Since we've opened, we have provided meal or service to 14,778 families. Of that, about 10% directly are students or related to Columbus State. We also recognize that food is just one of the barriers that our students face and our community members face. And so the market has also become a front door to a lot of things. In our market, we're able to provide employment opportunities for students and volunteer opportunities for students, faculty, staff, and community members. And what has been really powerful in the current times is that our volunteers come over from a wide variety of lifestyles and have a wide variety of experiences. And the quality of the conversations that we've had about contemporary issues have been a chance for all of us to learn about each other and learn about how we might go about creating the community that we want to live in. We know that most people who need food might also need connection to other resources. And so the market is a place where we're able to connect our community and our students to resources such as housing, childcare, healthcare. Recently started providing diapers and SNAP benefits. For our college students, it might be a chance to talk about what their career goals are or connect them to our career services office. And throughout this pandemic, we've served as a campus front door, where we've been able to distribute our Chromebooks and mobile hotspots, ensuring that students without access to technology are able to continue their education and their studies so that they can fulfill their degree requirements and their certificate requirements and hopefully have some economic mobility with their academic career. And finally, our role is normalizing higher education's role in addressing basic needs. That being on campus, we're able to really talk about the issues and bring people into the conversation so that we are creating a place where access becomes an important part of our conversation and not just on the fringes of what we do at Columbus State. We really feel that we are aligned with the mission of the local food action plan because we also have the opportunity to educate our customers about health and affordable food and local food. Our partnership with Mitchell Hall allows us to provide recipes and cooking demonstrations that have been a little bit sidelined lately, but we're excited to get back to those opportunities to let people know what to do with some of the food that we're providing so that hopefully it does become a part of their ongoing diet. When we're talking about this presentation, the things that Andrew wanted to share with everybody was that working in the market at Columbus State has provided him a place where he feels comfortable and connected to the school. We know that when our students feel connected to Columbus State, that they're more likely to complete their degrees and/or certificates. He says, having access to healthy, fresh food means it's one less thing I have to worry about and allows me time to focus on our classes. Ultimately, this can reduce time to degree completion and reduce the cost of going to college. In addition, he says he's more aware of campus and community resources which we are able to connect our customers, our community customers and our student customers to on an ongoing basis, allowing them to successfully navigate the challenges that are inherent in our society. And then I think his final statement was just that many students and community members appreciate our presence. We're really proud to be part of the food network in Columbus. We've grown a lot in our 9 months that we've been open, and having that access to fresh food is really a chance for our students to eat healthier diets and really achieve the economic mobility that should come with higher education. And if you'd like to volunteer, we are taking volunteers. We really appreciate the diversity of volunteers and then just general information about the efforts and programs that we have related to basic needs can be found at our Columbus State Community College homepage. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Phillips. And that takes us to the spotlight on one of our better corporate partners. And one of the best is our friends at Scott's Miracle-Gro and Associated Companies. And here to talk about some of their efforts along with Columbus and Franklin County is Sue Locke and Teresa Woodard and Shelley Castone's on the call. So take it away.
Great, thank you, Tony. So I'm Sue Locke with the Scott's Miracle-Gro Foundation, and along with the team from the Highland Youth Garden, we truly appreciate the opportunity to share our story as part of the local food action plan report to the community today. It's been a true labor of love to work with the City of Columbus and Franklin County on the Urban Garden Grant Program, and an effort that we are all extremely proud of. I have to say, Councilmember Tyson and President O'Grady, we're usually standing in a garden somewhere. So this is a kind of a different environment. So we have to think next time we get together, we plan this in a garden so we can get our hands dirty again. But this year marks the 19th year of the Scott's Miracle-Gro Foundation's Community Garden Grant Program here in Central Ohio. We're proud of the funding that has gone to more than 400 gardens through this program. And last year, we think about this more on a broader basis across the country, we funded a total of 390 gardens across the United States, which is connecting more than 2 million young people with the benefits of gardens, green spaces, and healthy foods. And this is part of Scott's Miracle-Gro's Scott's Miracle-Gro's goal to reach 10 million children by the year 2023. And along with financial support, we donate in-kind products valued at close to $200,000 to support schools and community gardens last year as well. And this is also taking place in the Central Ohio area as well. So when we were asked to take part in today's call, the Highland Youth Garden really came to the top of our list. Earlier when Tony mentioned fostering community collaboration, our work with Highland Youth Garden dates back to 2009. We have worked with them with Franklin Park. They were a recipient of the Community Garden of the Year back in 2009. And we're just really so incredibly proud of the work that's been taking place again, for more than a decade. So now I'd like to turn it over to Teresa Woodard, who is going to talk more about the work of the garden. And Teresa is Vice President of the Highland Youth Garden Board. Teresa?
Thank you, Sue. Scott's has been with Highland Youth Garden, as she said, for 10 years now since its start. And in 2009, the city's rec centers were closed due to budget cuts. Ironically, it was a summer much like this one, except today's rec centers are closed because of COVID. Our founder, as many of you know, Peggy Murphy, located a vacant lot and thought it would be a good idea to create a garden in a safe place for kids to gather. She and a team of volunteers, with the help of community partners like Scott's, transformed the barren property into a thriving garden that's now 3 city lots plus a high tunnel greenhouse. Over the years, Scott's generously supported the garden, donating soil, mulch, fertilizer, and soil. Their urban gardening grants helped fund our washing stations, seedling room, and improvements for pollinator gardens. With support from the local food action plan, our garden gained valuable advice in navigating the city's regulations on urban farming, specifically for the construction of our high tunnel, pictured in the next slide. They also helped us identify funding sources, provided valuable insights on food justice issues, and gave us a voice among community leaders. In the past year, before COVID, Highland Youth Garden was engaging 350 elementary students in garden lessons, planting alongside 40 youth in 2 after-school garden clubs, plus growing and harvesting 3,000 pounds of produce. With the COVID shutdown, the garden made a pivot from educational programming to serving the neighborhood's basic needs. Working 6 feet apart, staff and volunteers ramped up planting an abundance of spring crops. The outpouring of support was amazing. In May, we opened a drive-up free produce market on Wednesdays and Saturdays, running all through the season. We also passed out garden activity kits and free plants, lettuce, pepper, kale, cabbage, and tomatoes for neighbors to grow in their own backyards. One mom even returned at the request of her young son to get more pots and plants for their apartment balcony. To keep our garden youth involved, we reached out to 10 families and worked with them to install raised bed vegetable gardens in their own backyards. We also hired 6 local teen interns who each manage a crop, harvest produce, and help run our market. Most importantly, the garden has been a valuable tool to build community. Here, neighbors now come not only for fresh produce, but also to take part in the garden's beauty and to connect outdoors at social distances. Lul, one of our teen interns, has now been working at the garden for a year. She's here to share her experience in working with the After School Garden Club this past year. Lul?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, just making sure. When I started working with kids, when I first started working with kids in the garden, I was a little hesitant because I didn't know how to, but then sooner or later it was a fun thing to do after school when I wasn't busy with school, because the kids would always spread out, have fun. We'd play some games. Then we'd go into learning about plants, and it's helpful for them because they're learning how to grow something in their backyards. A lot of them always take plants and take them home and either plant them in their backyard or keep them in like containers and put them like somewhere in the house where it's sunny and they can water it. Some kids do take pictures and show it to us and show how it develops around the year. And it's helpful for them to learn from us on how they can build their own mini garden, have their fresh food for themselves, and grow their own vegetables.
Hey, thank you, Lowell. Appreciate it. And Shelly Pesto, you should all know, is our new executive director. She had joined us in April in the midst of COVID, and she is a dynamo, and we're just thankful to have her, and she's hit the ground running.
We're having a great time. Thanks for inviting us today. Bye-bye.
Sure. Thanks for coming. Okay, moving right along. I think Tori Strickland is on the call to talk a little bit about the Local Matters Veggie Van. Tori's, I believe, marketing director out there and is doing great things in the neighborhoods. Tori, it's all yours.
Awesome. My screen isn't allowing me to share, so I believe I sent my presentation to Cheryl. She must have backed me up. Oh, no, there it is. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Cool.
There it is.
So we're good here. Everyone can see it? Sorry. That's the agenda. Can everyone see it?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. So like you mentioned, my name is Tor. I'm the director of programs at Local Matters. And if you aren't as familiar with Local Matters, of course, you heard Michelle Moskowitz-Brown speak, but we basically are a local nonprofit here that generally focuses on food education, food access, and advocacy here in the area, primarily working in non-COVID times with partners such as Columbus City Schools, Head Start programs, as well as other corporate and educational spaces to fill the gap, the educational gap on how to create helpful meals on a budget and the importance that helpful foods can play in building a helpful life, a lifelong helpful lifestyle. So we've been around for about 10 years, and Veggie Van is a product of Local Matters in that much of our education is rooted in how to create helpful meals on a budget and filling that education gap. And many times in those presentations, we're talking about the fact that you can complete a meal and get a helpful meal on the table for a budget of $10 or less. And so Veggie Van was curated to bring that concept to life and fill that gap for people. So, sorry about that. So it launched in summer 2019. It's our year anniversary this year. And it is a mobile market, but we might mainly call it a mobile grocer. Sorry, my do not disturb is not working. And so in that, so being a mobile grocer means that we sell everything from fresh items as well as shelf-stable items such as canned goods, grains, spices, so that people can use the market as a one-stop shop to create that helpful meal and really stretch their food dollars while providing education through our meal kits on how to create that helpful meal on a budget. So we work with 5 partner locations currently right now of the Trio Pharmacy with Columbus Metropolitan Housing Authority, Rosewind Estates, Primary One Health Center over on East Main, Equitas Health over at their pharmacy location in King Lincoln, as well as with Bible Way Church over on Wheatland Avenue. We are there consistently every week, rain or shine during these outdoor market times to provide that food access over a 3-hour period at those markets. The goal of the market, of course, is to be not only accessible, but ultimately to provide affordable, helpful foods closer to home consistently so people can trust the access to those foods in their area. With the support of the Local Food Action Team and the Local Food Action Plan, we were able to identify which areas of Columbus were lacking of grocery stores, farmers markets, which one were basically more abundant in fast food outlets. Our strategies and our partnerships are strategic to basically be a gap filler. I always tell people that the market is not in any place to compete, but it's always there to complement, to be able to provide that access and ultimately, in its past forms, also education in neighborhoods that have that limited or food access or that abundance of fast food outlets. So gratitude to Local Food Action Plan for their support in that space. So with our market, we're basically a green van that rolls around the city, and we redistribute locally grown product through our gardens. So we have 12 growing spaces around the city. We partnered with Tiger Mushrooms Farms, Franklinton Farms. So our goal is to continue to build a local food footprint and access point through the veggie van to continue to encourage affordability. So we accept a lot of different forms of tender, everything from your traditional cash credit and EBT, also to fruit and vegetable vouchers. So we are Produce Perks Midwest Columbus spoke team, as well as a participant in that program, where through EBT and the Produce Perks program, shoppers at the market can receive that dollar for dollar match, allowing their dollar to not only to be used in an affordable way through the low price points at the market, but also to receive that match to use on future fruit and vegetable purchases. There's also other programs through partnerships with PRX, which is produce prescription, as well as temporary assistance for needy family fruit and vegetable vouchers, where individuals with those dollars can also utilize those benefits at the market. Since our relaunch basically in May, we did take the market offline for a few months given COVID-19 to really figure out how we are able to safely provide helpful foods and consistently in the communities in need, and as well as be able to provide that access, that convenient access that most of us began to enjoy with online ordering or drive-through pickup, how we could provide that access for our shoppers that were utilizing vouchers or EBT. So we were able to come back online with an online ordering system that allowed for pre-purchase online with credit or debit, or also pre-ordering and then on-site process of payment with EBT or fruit and vegetable vouchers while still maintaining that match. So we did relaunch the market in May with that social distance concept, with online ordering, with drive-through and drive-up ordering, and we still also do on-site social distance market ordering on site. We've been able to do a substantial amount in PRX benefit reimbursement, that produce prescription, people being able to utilize those vouchers, as well as upwards towards $2,000 worth of SNAP dollars being spent in the past couple of months. So we've had a strong start in that space, but then also knowing that we've really been able to fill that gap for our EBT and fruit and vegetable voucher community members to be able to maximize that dollar and also have that consistent and safe food access, which is a really huge point for us during these times. We do our best, of course, to stay consistent with our weekly stops. So we're there, like I mentioned, every week with our five weekly partner locations, as well as have a $10 meal kit to continue to fill that education gap. So though we do provide virtual program options, our market no longer provides on-site food education through our cooking demonstrations. So we're able to fill that gap with our $10 meal kits, where people can purchase that meal kit, and it has all the ingredients from the spices to the grains to the brown rice or whole wheat pasta, or whichever the recipe is, along with the recipe and an online demonstration of that recipe to show them how they can get that meal on the table. And those meals always feed a family of 4 on a budget of $10. So Veggie Van, the way that you can learn more about it, of course, is going online and checking out our website. And then ultimately, feel free to shop the Veggie Van and share within the networks. Like I mentioned, Veggie Van's goal is ultimately to fill that gap, to provide that closer to home access, and be that safe space for individuals that are looking to stretch their food dollar during these times. So thank you.
Thank you, Tori. And this brings us to our last presenters, and really the last, and some might say most important link in the food chain is the fact that we probably historically certainly have wasted far too much food, and the folks at the Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio are working on addressing this problem. And today we have Lucy Schroeder and Jeannie McAdams to tell us about the food waste action plan that SWACO has unleashed. Lucy?
Thank you, Tony. And thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I'll pull up my slides here while I introduce myself. But my name is Lucy Schroeder. I serve as Food Waste Initiative Coordinator for SWACO. So that means that I lead all of our initiatives with the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative. Let me see how we're doing here. Okay, and so I'm joined today by Jenny McAdams, who is Sustainability Supervisor for Environmental Health Teams with Franklin County Public Health. We're going to walk through just the highlights from 2019 of SWACO and the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative's work in relation to the Local Food Action Goal D, food-related waste. So I'm not going to touch too much on our work in 2020, but would love the opportunity to come back to speak about that because we've been very busy this year and would love to be able to share some updates. So to provide a little bit of background, the Solid Waste Authority of Central Ohio operates the landfill for Franklin County, as well as promoting all kinds of diversion opportunities and supporting programs across the county to keep material out of our landfills. So as part of that goal, SWACO has set a goal as an organization to reach 75% diversion of material from the landfill by 2032. As we learned that food waste was making up 15% of the material entering the landfill, making it the most common material in the landfill, it became clear that we were going to need to make food waste prevention part of our goals and milestones for reaching our goal. So this new focus on food waste led to the development of the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative. And so we work through a collective impact model. We've brought together over 60 organizations and 150 different representatives from across the county to work towards a goal of cutting food waste in half by 2030. We approach food waste diversion holistically, and we look at solutions for food waste prevention, food rescue, as well as food waste recycling. As partners in the Local Food Action Plan, the Food Waste Initiative has benefited from shared networks and common food waste reduction goals with local food projects. So as I said, we've been a busy organization, but I'm going to stick to just the highlights from 2019. And so just 4 items to walk through today. So first, 2019 was the inaugural year of the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative. So our first line of action was to create an action plan together. So we had over 60 national and regional organizations represented. We set this goal together of reaching 50% food waste reduction. And in that action plan, identified 20 solutions for how we're going to get there together. SWACO knows that food waste reduction is not something we can accomplish alone. And so that's why we've come at it with this collective effort, bringing together as many partners as we can in our journey with us. Second, to manage the activities of the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative, SWACO hired a full-time dedicated staff member as Food Waste Initiative Coordinator. I'm lucky enough to hold that position. And my role includes managing initiative gatherings, facilitating project work, and planning for the future of the initiative so that we can ensure that our project work is kept on task and that we're progressively moving towards that 50% reduction goal. Third, we have school engagement. In the action plan, initiative members identified 3 project areas as the best places to start our work for food waste reduction. One of those areas was engaging our local school system. So school engagement took several forms. First, there was a partnership between World Wildlife Fund, Kroger, and SWACO, which led to 4 Columbus City schools implementing World Wildlife Fund's Food Waste Warrior curriculum. As part of this program, students conducted cafeteria food waste audits that taught them to sort their food waste and open their eyes to the amounts of food being landfilled. By the end of the program, more than half of the usual lunchtime waste was diverted to composting. Another form of school engagement was building on the experiences of that World Wildlife Fund program. SWACO developed school resources for food waste diversion, including in-class and take-home activities, administrative tools, as well as program guides for schools. classroom resources were piloted with 12 local classrooms and are now available on SWACO's website. The third portion of our school engagement was we had Columbus City Schools as well as Hilliard City Schools apply for SWACO grants to build their food waste diversion programs, including vermicomposting education and cafeteria food waste composting programs. In addition to funding school food waste, SWACO also funded 3 other food waste programs through our community waste reduction grant for a total of over $30,000 in support for food waste reduction work in 2019. Some other outcomes of these grant projects includes the development of community food waste drop-off sites, expanded food donation efforts, and home composting workshops. The local food team has supported the work of Crowley with active participation in our working sessions, progressing work as laid out in our action plan and through SWACO grants, and sharing learned experiences with the initiative by participating in a trip to Milan, Italy as part of the Natural Resource Defense Council's Food Matters program. In 2019, local food team member Cheryl Graffinino participated on that trip with SWACO's Kyle O'Keefe, and they participated in learning and continue to come back to lead our food waste diversion programs with insights around the system set up in Milan, some of the world's leading programming for composting and food waste diversion. Cheryl also led a partnership between Columbus Public Health and Franklin County Public Health to apply for SWACO's Community Waste Reduction Grant. Today I have Jenny McAdams with me to share more about that grant project, so I will pass things over to Jenny.
Hi, thank you so much, Lucy, and thank you everyone on the call. As Lucy said, my name is Jenny McAdams. I work for Franklin County Public Health as their sustainability supervisor. And a lot of this work kind of came through the food safety realm. Food waste is an important topic to Franklin County Public Health because our sanitarians and food safety team do deal with food licensees and the safety of food in our communities. They go and inspect all the license holders in the community to make sure that food is safe, stored properly, and good for all of our community members and residents to eat. The health department also supports sustainability, which it reflects on my role. And to that end, the food waste is a great nexus of the two. An additional way that our health department does support the sustainability component and the food waste is we were awarded the USDA Farm to School grant in our community engagement and health promotion section under Valerie Jones, which works with our schools and other partners, including OSU, members of the local food action plan, and our schools. This is to get healthy and local food to our youth. So the work of the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative has supported the sustainability goals of FCPH by providing the leadership and direction to our food waste work. Through the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative, we collaborated, like Lucy said, with Cheryl Graffinino at Columbus Public Health to develop and communicate the food donation guidelines for food businesses that you see on your screen. As much as 40% of food loss and waste occurs in food businesses, especially those commercial ones. And when restaurants have excess food, in many cases, it can be donated to provide meals for hungry Central Ohio residents. That both diverts waste and provide essential meals. Unfortunately, there is a common misconception among food business operators that as health departments, we won't allow them to donate that excess food. So our participation in the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative helped us to realize our opportunity to set the narrative straight and encourage restaurants to follow food safety practices while donating excess food. SWACO's Community Waste Reduction Grant provided us with over $5,000 in funding to help develop and disseminate the food donation brochure, again, that you see on your screen. And since developing the brochure, we've sent it to all of our license holders in our annual license renewal packet. So that's over 3,000 in Franklin County have gotten that. We do continue to participate in food donation promotion as part of the Central Ohio Food Waste Initiative Food Rescue Working Group. And we're really excited about it. I know that there's been a lot of discussion even on our end on COVID, especially in the food work. We don't want this to go to the back burner because of COVID. So we're trying to, as we still go out, make sure that people realize that it is safe to donate. What we are seeing, which is both good, it's actually very good, is a lot of restaurants are donating some of that extra food and meals to their own staff who may have been furloughed due to the COVID crisis. So even if it isn't going necessarily to those food banks, we are seeing them start to really recognize and realize that the food is a resource in the community. which is a really great thing to have. And we really do want to thank SWACO and the local food team, especially Cheryl Graffinino, for helping us with all of this work and partnering with us on a continued basis. With that, I'll turn it back over to Lucy, but thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Jenny. And with that, we'll close out a little bit of information. As I mentioned, we have a lot going on in 2020. One item is the Save More Than Food campaign is coming out. This will be a food waste awareness campaign that will help engage different audiences in what they can do to reduce their food waste. Feel free to reach out to me with any questions or go to our website, coffwe.org, to learn more about the food waste initiative. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you, Lucy. And that concludes our regularly scheduled program. But I would like to pass the mic back to Councilmember Tyson to introduce public comment. Take it away.
Thank you, Tony, and certainly for being like the MC of today's meeting. So I really appreciate that. And I don't think we have any speakers, so we won't have to. We worried about having public comment at this time. So it's a little bit different when we're doing these Zoom meetings as opposed to when we're all together. So I want to again just thank all the presenters that shared information today. And let me see here. So I thank everyone. And I also just want to thank that the number of presenters and collaborative efforts you have heard about today for the viewing and listening audience reflects the local food action plan is being successfully implemented and the work is being driven by our community. The work we are doing has also been recognized nationally. One of our most recent achievements concerns the local food action plan implementation structure leading to new healthy food access partnerships. Specifically highlighted was the success story of the Linden Farmers Market. This has been selected as a promising practice by the National Association of County and City Health Officials. This designation of a promising practice means that it demonstrates exemplary and reputable qualities in response to a local public health need. The program reflects a strong local health department role, collaboration, and innovation. I want to thank Jaleesa Dawkins for submitting this. Moreover, I like to applaud all of you. We could not do this work if it were not for all the partners who have joined forces to prioritize food as a resource that helps our community in numerous ways. And when I think about thinking about this, starting the Food Action Plan in 2014 with President O'Grady, and certainly working closely with local matters, to see where we are today after 2 years of planning and now 4 years of implementation, it just gives me joy and want to just really say thank you for each and every one of you. And I know there's many partners that are not presenting today because these are the 2019 accomplishments, but everyone who's been working with us to achieve these goals. So again, I want to thank all the presenters and everyone that's joining us today. Before I conclude this afternoon's hearing, I'd like to take a moment to recognize today's speakers and the team of people that made this hearing possible. Ariel Miller of the Franklin County Local Food Action Plan, thank you for always allowing us to share the previous year's accomplishments at your meeting. The Local Food Action Team, Cheryl Graffinino and Jaleesa Dawkins of Columbus Public Health, and Brian Estabrook of the Franklin County Economic Development and Planning, Edward Johnson, Director of Public Health Policy at Columbus Public Health, Jim Shimmer, Director of Franklin County Economic Development and Planning, Tony Logan, the Local Food Board Chair. And again, I want to thank all the food board chair members who each and every day are focused on this work. Michelle Moskowitz-Brown, the Local Food Board member and the Executive Director of Local Matters. The Regional Market at Columbus State Community College, Dr. Lisa Phillips, and I want to thank Andrew Crowley for his comments. Columbus and Franklin County, and Scott's Miracle-Gro Urban Gardening Grant. And I'm just very happy that we have partnered with Sue, and we were all working together, this gardening grant program that the city and the county and the private sector were all working to ensure that urban gardening remains within our communities. So I want to say a special thank you to Sue Locke and Teresa Woodard and Shelley Castro. The Local Matters Veggie Van, Tori Strickland. I appreciate you being out in our neighborhood. Swaco, Lucy Schroeder, congratulations on your new position, and to Jenny McAdams. And I also want to make sure I'm saying a special thank you to the Highland Garden. I really appreciate the work that you've been doing. Certainly, Peggy Murphy was just certainly the founder and advocate of that garden. I visited many times, and I know we recently funded, I think it was last year, yes, we funded kind of a sustainability grant to continue to move the Highland Garden forward. And lastly, I want to thank my fellow council members, and I don't know if Councilmember Hardin wants to make any comments before I get ready to end, but I certainly appreciate him being here, but also all my council members and their staffs who work each and every day to serve our community with pride, and that they also are very much supportive of the work of the food plan. President Hardin, do you like to make a comment before I end a hearing? So I also, again, want to thank you for being here. I want to thank my staff, Nicole Harper and Carl Williams, and also the hardworking staff of CTV who make these hearings possible. And certainly our team, now that we're using, being virtual meetings, I certainly want to thank Ms. Angie Burke for her work in supporting us. And then I want to thank Commissioner Boyce for joining on behalf of the county, who certainly the county is a key partner with us in the food plan. And finally, I would like to thank the residents of Columbus that make our city a great place to live, work, and to raise a family. And thank you so very much for being here. This hearing is now adjourned.
Bye, everybody.